Hi, and welcome back to Quinnicopia. Today we're going to look at another topic that relates to sin, and the question today is smoking sinful? I've received that question a few times. A lot of people who smoke tobacco also transition over into smoking marijuana, and they like to use the Bible. They'll quote the Bible and say, well, wasn't all the herbs of the field given to the people? And the answer to that is yes. So let's take a look at that verse, and we'll go through that. So in Genesis 1:11, God said, "Let the earth bring forth grass, the herb that yields seed, and the fruit tree that yields fruit according to its kind, whose seed is in itself on the earth." And it was so. And the earth brought forth grass, the herb that yields seed according to its kind, and the tree that yields fruit, whose seed is in itself according to its kind, and God saw that it was good. So the question I always get is, well, isn't all the herbs and all the plants that God gave to us, isn't that good? Well, yeah, it is good. But there's a little bit more that people seem to forget. That's found in Genesis 1:29 and 30. And God said, "See, I have given you every herb that yields seed, which is on the face of all the earth, and every tree whose fruit yields seed, to you it shall be for food. Also every beast of the earth, to every bird of the air, and to everything that creeps on the earth, in which there is life, I have given every green herb for food." And it was so. So the answer to the question, didn't God give us every green herb, is yes, but He didn't give us those herbs to smoke. He gave us those herbs for food. He also gave us those herbs for medicine. We see that in Ezekiel 47:12. "Along the bank of the river on this side and that will grow all kinds of trees used for food. Their leaves will not wither and their fruit will not fail. They will bear fruit every month because their waters flow from the sanctuary. Their fruit will be for food and their leaves for medicine." So other recreational drugs like cocaine or heroin and opium, all these things are fine if we can use them for medicine, but not as a drug. Smoking, recreational drugs, cocaine, heroin, marijuana, those things are different. And the reason for that is found in Romans chapter 6, verse 16. It says, "Do you not know that to whom you present yourselves slaves to obey, you are that one slave whom you obey, whether of sin leading to death or of obedience leading to righteousness?" So if you are a slave to a specific item like cocaine or marijuana or opium, you are what we call today addicted to that. And that's where the sin comes in. So you can smoke and use tobacco, or you can smoke marijuana, but when you become addicted to the substance, that's where the sin comes in. And that's the problem with cocaine and heroin and all these other quote-unquote recreational drugs, is that there is an addiction that is attached to them. I've never heard of anyone using cocaine one time and that was it. There's usually an addiction that goes with it. Now, if you use it one time and you're not addicted to it, good for you. But there's also a law that says we are not to use cocaine. So there's that. And if you break that law, even though it's man's law, that is still a sin because you're breaking the law. Not only a sin, but it's also a crime. And the Bible does say to adhere to man's law, as long as it does not try to overrule God's law. And there are a lot of man's laws that are trying to overrule God's laws, and those are for another time. So just to continue with the dictionary and using definitions to explain what sin is, let's take a look at what addiction means. And so I've got the 6 dictionaries pulled up. I'm not going to go through all of them because they're all basically the same anyway, and they all come down to using one word specifically. So if we look at the freedictionary.com, it says letter A is a condition involving use of a substance such as a drug or alcohol, or engagement in a behavior such as gambling, in which a person has strong cravings and is unable to stop or limit the activity, continues the activity despite harmful consequences, and experiences distress upon discontinuance. That is definitely a great definition for the word addiction. And then also dictionary.com is the state of being compulsively committed to a habit or the practice of something that is habit forming, such as narcotics. And so you can go through and look at all these definitions on your own. But if you look, the primary word in these last 3 is habit, and same thing with the rest of them. They don't say habit, but that is the underpinning word. And so a habit is an acquired behavior pattern regularly followed until it is almost involuntary. And that is absolutely true. And so between those 2 definitions, you really come down to exactly why doing anything that is a habit or becomes a habit or an addiction can be considered sinful. Because God wants us to be dependent upon Him. If you're dependent upon a substance or an herb or a drug, that's why it's sinful, because you're not focusing on God, you're focusing on this other thing. And when you begin to think about it on a regular basis, like drugs do, like narcotics, they cause you to want them more and focus on them to the point where that's the only thing you can think about. And so more or less anything that causes a chemical reaction in your brain, and there is more than just narcotics that do that. Pornography is another one that causes a chemical reaction in your brain. And so these things are sinful because they draw your attention away from God by forming an addiction to them. So that's the reason why smoking or tobacco or marijuana, narcotic drugs, any of those things are considered sinful. The act in and of itself, if you smoke a cigarette and it's not something that you become addicted to or habit forming, that's one thing. But as soon as you cross that line into addiction, that's where it becomes a sin. Thanks for watching. See you next time.